So Andor's wrapped up, and it's left every Star Wars fan, or at least the ones who watched it, wondering what's next for the franchise, wondering how Lucasfilm's planning to follow this tour de force up, and wondering how this show's, let's be honest, surprising level of quality might change future plans for that galaxy far, far away. I know there's a few shows, maybe a movie or two in production, but others look to be in development hell. It's looking like an increasingly risky bet that we'll ever see previously teased projects like Rian Johnson's trilogy, that Lando show, and plenty others besides. Point being, the future's uncertain. There's space for new projects to fill these potential voids, especially since this prequel nobody asked for to a prequel nobody asked for has turned out to be the best Star Wars project in maybe forever. And I think there's something Lucasfilm needs to do now, in this period of relative uncertainty, to guarantee this franchise stays fresh, stays exciting, and stays able to tell stories that matter, ones that go beyond Glup, Shitto, and friends. And that is, give Tony Gilroy, showrunner of Andor, a show set before the sequel trilogy, exploring the shadowy rise of the First Order. Just throw money at him until he says yes. That's it. That's the pitch. Now let me tell you why this needs to happen. The sequel trilogy wasn't great, and a huge part of the reason for this was the First Order. It's no secret that the First Order's a pretty lousy faction. They are, for all intents and purposes, a reskinned version of the original trilogy's Empire. They look the same, their ships look the same, their leadership seems pretty similar, and they do the same things, both in-universe and from a narrative perspective. To be honest, I'd call this copy-pasted quality one of the sequel trilogy's biggest conceptual flaws. From the start, the villains are just a stand-in for the bad guys we saw way back when. So not only does this undermine the rebel victory against the Empire, probably more significantly, it pins down what this trilogy can do, what it can represent, what stories it can tell to this same, now stale area. What's more, the Empire, their aesthetics, their defeat in the OT, George Lucas didn't exactly create those films alone, but there's a comparatively singular purpose there, a clarity of vision when compared to the kind of designed by committee nature of these sequels, swapping in and out directors and writers as they did. All these factors combined to give us a fairly faceless antagonist in the First Order, more the loose idea of an enemy than any enemy in particular, an antagonist whose history, ideology, or politics were barely visible and never differentiated. As suggested above, that's unsatisfying from a narrative point of view, but it also made Rey, Finn, and Poe's enemies meaningless. Star Wars isn't exactly Das Kapital, but at the very least it had always been politically charged, right back from Lucas's anti-imperialist overtures in A New Hope. If the Empire, if Palpatine, were purely, transcendentally, cartoonishly evil, then it wouldn't have been scary or threatening, but as dark mirrors to the way obedience, blind belief in hierarchy, and the theatre of perpetual threat can make men think and act, they became more than mere archetypes of villainy. It's true, a lot of that same symbolism was grandfathered into the First Order by virtue of the way that whole faction was again just a photocopy of the Empire, but it's explored even less here, and it just feels incongruous that Star Wars understands a newly ascendant, revivalist faction that seized power near identically to the way it understands the Empire, the result of an already dubious republic's slow rotting decay. Andor showed us that taking up this latent political charge around the Empire's characterization and developing it could result in a fantastic, resonant story as well as a broader shift in how we understand the Empire throughout this franchise. Just think about what a similar project could do for the First Order, could do to expand on the ideas these sequels limply gestured toward. Imagine a series like Andor 5 or 10 years before The Force Awakens. The First Order may have been a small splinter group before that film, but I've always thought their seemingly instant ascent to galactic dominance throughout the sequels suggests the New Republic was failing long before this point, that some semblance of this imperial ideology of obedience, submission, and military glorification had already risen again and spread across the stars. This show would explore that. It wouldn't depict the brutal mundanity of the fascist system as Andor did, it'd depict the way these systems come about. Not from a macro level, not from the eyes of the high and mighty, as the prequels attempted to do, but from the bottom up. We'd see the banal, blind indifference of those in power, as they deluded themselves and the galaxy that things were going fine, that the Empire and its ideals were gone, dead and buried, that their democracy was strong enough to withstand these challenges, yada yada yada. Throughout the course of this show, the First Order, their ideals, their rhetoric, their methods would finally be differentiated from those of the Empire. We'd see the rebirth myth. We'd see them style themselves as returning to the values of some long-forgotten, stronger time. We'd see a First Order that wasn't just reskinned stormtroopers. We'd see the insidious rise of fascist revivalists. And what's more timely than that? Tony Gilroy could do this. He's got plenty of experience working on complex politically charged stories from his time consulting on House of Cards, and just look at what he was able to do with Andor. So that's why a project like this is rich with potential and potency. Next, let's think about why this makes sense from Disney's perspective. Because, yeah, it's not exactly a secret that Andor didn't smash streaming records. A lot of people didn't bother watching this, so why would this hypothetical Gilroy sequel prequel be any different in this regard? Well, let's put on our boring, soulless, capitalistic thinking caps and ponder the business end of all this. There have been some rumblings recently that Lucasfilm's looking to revisit the sequel era, maybe even bring some sequel characters back, possibly in a movie helmed by Damon Lindelof. As far as I can tell, we're a good way away from that project even getting a release date, so honestly who knows if we'll ever see it, but what this does tell us is that there's corporate interest in going back to that well, that Lucasfilm anticipate a return to the sequel era would generate interest and hype among the fan base. I'm sure that'd be true, and that particularly the first couple of projects returning to this setting would benefit from a viewership bump. But numbers are only half the battle. That's why this new era fizzled out so completely after the rise of Skywalker. No, it seems to me that from a studio perspective, the ideal return to Star Wars' future would get good views and good reviews. If you go to the trouble of digging up this now fossilizing brand, only to use it as the backdrop of a mediocre project, that's gonna suck for the viewer, but it's also going to suck for the studio, because it stunts the potential for further success revisiting this setting going forward. Star Wars wants popular and well-received shows, and a Gilroy-helmed sequel prequel touching on the rise of the First Order, the fall of the New Republic, and possibly other aspects of that now maligned trilogy, that'd generate way more fan interest than Andor did, while having the potential to be just as good, if not better. And here's the part where a bunch of you click off the video because you've been deluded into thinking there's some sharp, metaphysical line existing between stories people tell and the people who tell them, or the world those people live in, but we need stories like this, stories like Andor, stories like this hypothetical series more than ever. Stories which look unflinchingly at the way fascism operates, how it rises, how it digs its hooks into a populace, what the warning signs are. More and more of our culture and society is being co-opted by fascists and fascist sympathizers, and most people aren't aware. Most of you watching this won't believe me. You'll think I'm being alarmist. You'll think fascism's some dead idea that only applies to the baddies we beat in the war. Or you'll think that, I don't know, climate change activists and vaccinated sheeple are the real fascists. The details of this problem are complex, and I'm planning to make a video going into that specifically at some point, but for now, let's just say that popular fiction, even franchises like Star Wars, becoming aware of this problem would be a step in the right direction. And an Andor-type show set before the sequels, a show which looks at these fantastical enemies and sees the real within them, that'd be great television, but it could also be a lot more than that. I know there's a faction of online users who scoff at the idea that a Disney project could have any genuine spark of resistance within it, who act like there's nothing remotely special about Andor, but I think that's a bit simplistic. Yeah, Andor probably isn't truly anti-capitalist, very few commercial products can be, and yes, I've seen that Disco Elysium screenshot too, you guys, but it's definitely anti-fascist, fiercely at times, and if that isn't enough to pass muster with some of you, then I think that's your L to take. So if anyone from Lucasfilm is watching this, get that checkbook out and get Gilroy on board. Or, you know, anyone from the Andor team. There were plenty of other writers and creatives involved here, so make sure you keep them on the payroll. Obviously, the better option is that you pay these guys to explore these themes in whatever stories, whatever settings, franchised or otherwise they choose, but hey, I know how the world works, and this hypothetical series would be a good compromise. It'd be a good fit for the franchise building Star Wars seemingly wants to do, the reclamation of the sequel prequel era, and it'd also have the potential to, be a really good show. A show that differentiates the First Order. A show that continues the brilliance and potency of Andor beyond that second season. If you agree, make sure you like and share this video, because if it blows up, who knows, maybe they'll actually listen. That's it from me though. I am working on another Andor video with the working title of Andor and Kafka, which will be done when it's done, so subscribe if you want to stay tuned for that. And special thanks as always to all my Patreon supporters on screen now, especially Strange Folk.